The third thing that Canadian students should know, international students should know about Canadian law, is what to do if you have a problem with your landlord. And this is incredibly common. I would say that when I go to Focus Club, or we have focus dinners, or we used to have focus dinners before COVID in London, I would get requests every week or two, for landlord and tenant issues. When you're living in close proximity with other people, it doesn't always work out. And the reality is some people who are renting properties will take advantage of the fact that people don't know the law. And so in Ontario, we have a law called the Residential Tenancies Act. This law limits what landlords and tenants can do. It has, in particular, there are some strict rules about raising the rent. So you can't raise the rent, just like the landlord just can't come to you after you've been living there for 6 months and say, I'm raising the rent, I'm doubling your rent. They can't do that. Even if you don't have a lease, they can't do that. Because there's a section of the Residential Tenancies Act that says that if they're going to give an increase in rent, they can only do it once a year, and it can only be a certain amount that is pegged to the inflation rate. And so it doesn't go up that much that fast. And there are some excellent resources around in our area for dealing with these kinds of problems. And I suspect that in most other universities, there's probably similar resources. Fanshawe College has a housing mediator that you can call. He works for Fanshawe, and he will call up the landlord and he'll explain the law to the landlord and hopefully be able to mediate the problem so that the problem is resolved. And if that doesn't work, there is also another option, and that is Western University at their law school has a community legal services department. And the community legal services department serves primarily students, and a lot of what they do is residential tenancies work, so your landlord and tenant law. And what you're getting from the university community legal services is a law student, usually a second or third year law student, who is acting on the instructions of an actual lawyer who's employed by the law school, and who is telling the student how to act in your case, right? To give them to help them learn how to advocate for people in a situation like yours. And so you usually get very good representation, and it's all entirely free if you qualify. So that's a great resource as well. And I suspect that most other schools have similar personnel around this, because it is a very common problem. And the Landlord and Tenant Board actually has a fantastic website too that answers a lot of the basic questions. So, it is a great resource as well. If you do take your landlord dispute to the tribunal, it has to go to something called the Landlord and Tenant Board, which is it's like a court, but it's not a court. It's like below a court, but it's highly specialized, and because of that, the people who work there tend to actually know the law really well, because they're only responsible for knowing that one law. And they also have, for tenants, they have free legal aid there, and so you can get the assistance of a legal aid lawyer who can give you some advice there as well for free, and they are a trained lawyer as well. And then they also have mediation services as part of their process that can help divert many of these disputes. In a lot of cases, it's somebody doesn't know the law, and the problems can be easily resolved once it's made clear to somebody what the law actually says. So, this is a big issue for students in particular, because housing is one of the most expensive parts of their budget, and it's one that comes up regularly. Look for those free legal services in your area, and especially through the university and colleges, they tend to be very good at what they do. So those are a great resource. And the key is to get good advice.